Okay, everybody, we're going to look at two things today that you're working on in class. One is this worksheet called Special Quadrilaterals, and you're going to be finding the different aspects of these quadrilaterals and naming them. And you're going to be doing a lot of slope and length calculations over and over again. You're going to want your calculator out, ready to go to make these calculations. Okay, the first one is this worksheet that has the pictures across the top and on the back. Okay, so you're going to be looking at 6 different quadrilaterals and the aspects of them with their lengths and their slopes. You're going to be classifying them and talking about their characteristics. Okay, so I just want to work through one example with you so that you know what you're doing on the rest. So for this first one, we should recognize this as a parallelogram. It's asking you to find 4 lengths. So for AB, side AB here, draw in your Pythagorean triangle. Label it if you want. This side is 3, this side is 1. So the length of AB is 3 squared plus 1 squared. So that is the square root of 10 on your calculator. So you've got 3 squared plus 1 squared. You can just type it straight in, square root. The answer is 3.16. We don't need to do any rounding. Okay, then you'll do that for CD as well. Okay, this side's 3, this side's 1, and look, we're getting the same answer. 3 squared plus 1 squared. The answer is 3.16. Okay, so you're going to do that for AD and BC. Okay. If you want to use different colors, I always think that's a great idea. So here's AD. It is a 1 by 5 triangle. Okay. When you work that out on your calculator, it's 5.1, and you keep going. All right. For your slopes, scroll down a bit to your slopes. Your slope of AB is -3/1. The slope of DC, again, -3/1. Your slope of AD, it's -1/5. Remember, it's change in Y over change in X. And for BC, down 1/5, so -1/5. Okay? At the bottom is where you're going to make your classifications. You recognize that from the picture that that's a parallelogram, so you can go ahead and name it parallelogram. And you can use the paper from yesterday to do that as well, to help you. The thing that we did online with GeoGebra, you can look at the classifications of those and the fact that they had the same length sides, the same slope sides that made a parallelogram. Okay? And here are some characteristics we just found out. Opposite sides. They're congruent and parallel. Okay, so we found that out from the lengths that showed us they were congruent, from the slopes that showed us that they were parallel. So you're going to do that for all 6 shapes. What you don't finish in class is homework. I would ask that you do this in pencil so you can make any corrections from the answer key posted online. All right, the next thing we're doing is we're filling out this graphic organizer, classifying quadrilaterals. Okay. So this helps us understand how all these things fit together. Everything on here is a quadrilateral. Okay, so everything on here has 4 sides, and that's the definition of a quadrilateral, is that it has, it's a polygon with 4 sides. Okay, but then it gets specific. Things, if you're a quadrilateral, you break down into one of 3 categories. Things that are trapezoids, that's category 1. Things that are kites, category 2. And then the biggest category is category 3, things that are parallelograms. Okay? So let's start with parallelograms just because they're the most familiar to us. If you're a parallelogram, the defining thing that's true about you is that you are a quadrilateral where the opposite sides are parallel. Okay, that is the defining feature of a parallelogram. The opposite sides are parallel. Okay, some other things we found out about it are that the opposite sides are also congruent. Okay, so these sides are also congruent to each other. We found out the diagonals bisect each other. Okay, so if you were to draw diagonals in there, they cut each other in half. And lastly, we found out some stuff about angles. We found out that opposite angles are congruent and consecutive angles were supplementary. Okay, so those are several things we found out. The defining characteristic, though, is opposite sides parallel. Now here's what's cool. Parallelograms fall into a couple of categories. You can be just a normal parallelogram, but you could also be a special parallelogram. These are both special parallelograms, okay? And here's what's true about them. So for instance, a rectangle is a parallelogram. It has all these features, plus one more defining feature, it has 4 right angles. Okay, so it has opposite sides parallel plus 4 right angles. That's how you can tell that it's a rectangle. That's the defining feature. Okay, so we're adding this feature of 4 right angles. Okay, if it has that, the extra feature that we can say is that the diagonals are also congruent. It has these features plus diagonals are congruent. Okay. So that's one type of parallelogram. Another type of a parallelogram is a rhombus, okay? And it is a parallelogram plus it has 4 congruent sides. We don't know about its angles, but we do know its sides are all the same. 1, 2, 3, 4. Okay? It has some extra features. It has all of these for parallelograms, plus the diagonals are perpendicular, and the opposite angles are bisected. So when you draw in the diagonals, they're perpendicular, and then they bisect or cut in half all the angles that they touch. Okay? All right, parallelograms have a third category. If you are a rhombus and a rectangle, so you're a parallelogram, you have 4 congruent sides and 4 right angles, then you're a square. So it's parallelogram plus rhombus plus rectangle. Okay, so you have all of these characteristics. You become you're a square. Okay, so all 4 sides are congruent like a rhombus, all 4 angles are right angles like a rectangle. You're a square then at that point. So you have all of these characteristics. Awesome. Okay, all these characteristics, all the blue characteristics are true as well. Okay, so that's the biggest category. Next, quadrilaterals. Let's talk about trapezoids. Okay, so you have trapezoids and then special trapezoids, which are isosceles. Okay, so your generic trapezoid, the defining feature of him is he has 1 pair of parallel sides. Okay, so one side is congruent to one side. That's it. Okay, and a bonus feature, because he's got those parallel sides, then he has some consecutive angles that are supplementary. They're in pairs. So he has 2 pairs of consecutive angles are supplementary. Okay, that makes sense. Stop and think about it. If this side is parallel to this side, then this angle here and this angle here have to be supplementary. They have to add to 180. Because we know that about parallel lines. It's same side interior angles are supplementary. This angle over here and this angle down here have to be supplementary because they're same side interior angles as well. We don't know that they're all congruent, there's nothing about that, but these two angles are supplementary, these two angles are supplementary because we have parallel lines. Okay? We can get a little special with him. We can get an isosceles trapezoid. His characteristic is he's just a regular trapezoid plus he has the bonus characteristic that his non-parallel sides are congruent. Okay, so here are his parallel sides, but then these sides are same congruent. Okay, what that causes for him is a bonus characteristic. Okay, see, he still has these consecutive angles. Okay, he's got a couple bonus characteristics that his consecutive angles, that's not what I want to say, sorry, his diagonals are congruent. Okay, and the other thing you can say is that these consecutive angles down here are congruent, so he's got two pairs of congruent angles as well. So his base angles are congruent, and then the ones at the top are also congruent. Okay? That makes sense. Kind of like an isosceles triangle. When you have same sides, you get same angles. Last one, a kite. Category 2 here, a kite. Okay, here's what's special about a kite. The defining characteristic is that he has two pairs of consecutive sides that are congruent. So here's two consecutive sides. These top two, they're same. Then these bottom two, same. Okay. Here's a couple things that happen because of this. I like to draw the diagonals of a kite, first of all, because then it makes it look like the kind of kite you fly, but it shows some interesting things. His diagonals bisect each other. I'm sorry. They're perpendicular is what I'm trying to say. Sorry, the diagonals are perpendicular. They make 4 right angles. Sorry. One of the diagonals is bisected. Okay, this one here gets cut in half. Okay, one pair of angles are congruent. It's these angles here on the sides. And then one pair of opposite angles are bisected. One pair angles bisected. And it's these. This guy is getting bisected. This angle up here is getting cut in half. And this angle down here is getting cut in half. Okay. Hard to see on my little diagram there. Sorry about that. All right, so that's everything you need on this sheet. The answer key is posted online if you need to see more information about it. Thank you very much.